love to think as human beings mature in age, we become a lot more accepting of our environment, and in turn a little less judgmental of the people around us. Now, if that was completely true, you gotta admit, this world would be boring as fuck. Like, imagine a world where Christian of all people actually took his medicine instead of becoming a crazy transgender who raped his mother. I know, I'd hate to be there too. Who else would be the most documented man on earth?
Well,
Like
yeah, I mean, kind of.
Sonic game's like a 4 out of 10.
What?
This guy. This is the second video I've done on Synthetic Man for making stupidly retarded points and looking like that. The first one I thought shed a sufficient light about this fucker's ability to both review and talk about important things in a video game. For example, why should I waste $100 on a shit Ghost of Tsushima? And most of the replies from his fans were more like, kill yourself, you tranny faggot. You can tell when someone has so much pent up rage and aggression for the other race, when in his review for Space Marines 2, he unironically states the main thing gatekeeping this game from being perfect was the black guy you play alongside. Now you can take my word for it, or you can see it for yourself.
There is one Space Marine that is just straight up undeniably African. Either way, you get the point. This has definitely got to be a retcon for diversity purposes. And yeah, I gotta say, it definitely distracted me. It wasn't woke enough for me to say like, oh, this is blatant propaganda, but it's clear to see that Games Workshop is going down a slippery slope.
I love how his first problem with the game is,
why is there a black man on my screen? Fucking burn, you nick.
and he's like blaming the left and shit, when in reality all you had to do was spend 5 seconds on Google. By the way, it's because they recruit soldiers from over 500 fucking planets, you retard. You fucking balding retard cunt. He goes into this review going,
Gameplay, great. Story, fun. Mechanics, great. Black guy?
I don't know how he does this, but he has this inept ability to undo all his competent arguments in a span of 10 seconds or less. He tries to argue that video games that are classified as art are shit.
If this is what it means to be art, to have a non-binary character preach to the audience, then I would much rather video games just be soulless products made to make a quick buck.
Then he backtracks and says that games like Metal Gear Solid 2, a game known for its story, are great.
Now the reality is, games from the mid-90s to the late aughts weren't soulless products. They were made by passionate developers that wanted to make the best video game they possibly could. You know, gameplay was the priority over everything else. Even the games that had great stories still had compelling gameplay to back them up. I mean, you could argue Metal Gear Solid 1 is the first movie game.
Going back to that art games are shit line, it's not like all games that have non-binary characters are automatically made to the meta for what's classified as art. It just means the game was fucking shit. It has nothing to do with the fact that all consumable media has to have this woke shit to be labeled as art, and everything to do with how the artwork in question was retarded. Imagine going into an art museum and there's like 2 paintings hung up on the wall. One where it's a drawing of 2 stick figures having gay sex, and the other one is like a 10-foot tall painting of trench warfare. Both are art, both are still labeled as art, but the difference is one is shit and one is not. Doesn't matter if the art is gay, it's still art. What Synthetic Man refuses to acknowledge is that anything is and anything will be classified as art. It's just up to the person making said art to actually make it good. Now, it's very surprising that people take this guy's opinion seriously, when in the game review of Veilguard, he admits he didn't even play the fucking game.
In this game, and one of the few I saw was evil. Of course, part of some fucking cult or something. He even did a fucking Hail Hydra moment to taunt the player characters. Holy shit, this game sucks. I feel like there's so much cringe in this game that could be its own video, really, but like I said, I have no intentions of playing this game, and I don't think I'm gonna watch any more footage from it either.
This is the most woke, garbage, bad game I've ever played. I haven't played it.
This guy just owned the liberals. Of course you don't have to play a game to know it's shit, but stuff like controls, gameplay, audio settings, mechanics should be pretty fucking important to a game review. He does this a lot where he goes on a tangent about having minorities on screen will affect the greater gaming ecosystem, and not on the fact the game itself was just boring as fuck to play as.
Start of the game, which I think really ruins that progression of the story of the heroes becoming a team and more competent and earning better powers or whatever. It doesn't really make sense. It's some of that good old Ludo narrative dissonance, as journalists would call it. But anyway, to keep it brief, your party members are a ginger dwarf who is the only dwarf to ever get magic powers. Yeah, normally dwarves can't use magic in Dragon Age, so that obviously makes her very special, and she's a returning character from Inquisition. An Indian mage woman with a prosthetic leg, because I guess being Indian wasn't diverse enough. A genius elf mechanic who is incredibly quirky and fucking annoying. She's easily the character in the game with the most millennial-style dialogue. I ended up hating her very quickly. There's a black elf monster hunter with a griffin pet. Black elves really feel like the new hotness in fantasy stories these days. Remember when elves were supposed to represent a sort of alien sense of beauty and pure whiteness? And dark elves were like purplish blue. They certainly didn't have an African phenotype until recently. So I guess this is just standard now. I'm not allowed to criticize it since so much other woke media has already done it.
So after this, he started to promote his podcast, The Gay Cast. KK cast, the shoot myself in the head with my parents' gun cast. We all know he dreams about that shit. The podcast is pretty much what you'd expect, just a bunch of balding white guys complaining about the lack of video game titties. Normal stuff, really. I mean, hey, if you ever need a guest on the show, I'll come on. I mean, I'll do it. I guess the sad thing is, this man is pushing 30. This guy is pushing 30 years old, and he spends his time fucking hating the blacks, or gays. And whenever he does find a game that he likes, it's like an automatic -1 point because of the black people. I like to imagine him getting Space Marines too, and like downloads it on Steam, and when he plays it, he's like,
Oh wow, the game isn't woke. I feel like a powerful man. The game is good. I'm really having a fun time. I wonder who I'm playing with. He's black! Get out! Get the fuck out!
like I said, he sometimes has good points, like yes, the new Silent Hill 2 isn't Silent Hill, and yes, it does play more like The Last of Us would, but as soon as you review the gameplay off of another guy playing the game that you refuse to play, suddenly, people don't take you too seriously now, do they? So in conclusion, just get a fucking girlfriend. None of this would have happened if you stopped being a weird cunt and actually talk to people. Like, go outside. I hear it's lovely.